Hello everybody, this is Abby Normal and welcome back to Cupid, the visual novel, and we're going to start off with this lovely introduction of Emily Parody? Yes. Emily Parody wandered about the crowd searching for a familiar face. She had arrived halfway through Catherine's performance just in time to gush at her little sister's applause. Unfortunately, she couldn't find her father in the crowd. When she finally caught sight of the back of his head, she approached him hastily. "Daddy!" "Oh, Father, there you are. I've been looking all over for..." Emily stopped as she saw the man her father was talking to. It was none other but the Marquis himself. She fixed her hair self-consciously and curtsied. "Girl." "My lord, pardon my intrusion. I didn't realise..." Gilly smiled at her kindly. "You are free to intrude any time, my lady." Emily smiled back, just as the rumour said. The Marquis was very easy on the eyes. "Yeah, he is." "To whom do I owe the pleasure of your acquaintance?" "Oh, this is my eldest daughter, Emily. Pardon me for not introducing her sooner." "Charmed." Gilly offered her a seat, and Emily sat down across the man. "Sat down across the man? Like, ooh. Well, it seems talent and good looks run in the family. Steady." Francois rubbed his neck. "Yes, my daughters are my pride and joy. Thankfully, they both took after their mother." "Surely not, Monsieur Perrode. The eyes are yours. Earnest and loving eyes." Emily snorted at such snappy words. Her father was clearly basking in compliments. If this really was the famous Gilly the rumours talked about, then he wasn't exactly much of a charmer, was he? She didn't know what all the fuss was about. The ladies in the house she worked for could not seem to stop talking about this man. Admittedly, there was something morbidly curious about the way he looked at people. Like he was always distracted and could only say words that were expected of him. "I am pleased to have finally met you, sire. I've heard a lot about you on my travels." "All good things, I hope." "Depends on the tabloid and the day of the week," Emily thought to herself and chuckled. "You are a governess, I was told. Where do you work?" "With the Dimitri household, sire." "Ah, yes, I heard you were marrying into the family soon." "Oh, Father, I told you not to tell anybody yet." "I didn't. You know how people talk. Word travels fast." "Pardon the comment then, my lady." "Please. Your betrothed is a lucky man, I'm sure." "Ah." The conversation endured through the afternoon. Small talk, musical composures, their little town, Catherine's musical background, Francois' students, Emily's work. Emily played with her napkin, offering droll opinions on the particularly droll topics. All throughout the exchange, Emily observed the infamous Marquis de Goulle. This was him? The audacious, shameless flirt of the royal court and tabloids? According to rumours, he was able to bed both the widowed Countess of Devonshire and her daughter. At the same time... Whoa, Gilly! And even had a very bad relationship with the Prince of Garnet. He didn't limit himself to royalty, or so the tabloids said. His latest thing was an English poet, who they say almost killed himself when he was caught with another man. Or woman. And at this point, who knew what was real and what was blatant lie made up by the newspapers? Because, you know, tabloids, you have to trust what they say. She had looked forward to meeting him. And here he was, finally, talking about sampling the new bakeries at Creme Brûlée. All creme brûlée is good. She couldn't say she was disappointed exactly, but the Marquis was a depressingly normal man. Maybe even boring, Emily ventured. She watched as his gaze flickers across her hair and nose before lazily trailing away. How infuriating! She wondered if he would suddenly say something coy to it, or insist to dance with her. Just something outrageous, honestly, so she could shoot him down. This man whom everyone was interested in. That would be a small victory for reasonable women everywhere. But the Marquis was nothing but polite. He did not ogle. He did not touch unnecessarily. No audacious gestures or suggestive winks of the eye. He would not even look at her for more than 2 seconds. Maybe she was not pretty enough to flirt with. Emily, stop it. Emily bit her lip. She shouldn't be thinking that. Don't. But There were also times that he would quietly look into her eyes when the conversation lulled. When the words spoken were without meaning, the eyes would converse further. Ah! He's going Super Saiyan! To Emily, he'd started to look lonely underneath the facade of caprice. He seemed tired of all the gallivanting, the rumours, and the numerous flings. We are a little lonely, aren't we? Perhaps even he. He invited the family over to his chateau and commented on how empty the building felt sometimes. Music was his guilty pleasure. It got him through the cold nights, he said with a sad grin. How he wouldn't mind a warm soul to touch. I bet you wouldn't. And before she could stop herself, Emily had begun to imagine his lips on her neck. Steady! On one of those. Oh, cold. Why is he green? Night. Oh my god, he's a fairy, isn't he? Emily shook her head, trying to erase the thoughts in her mind. Steady. They were having a perfectly mundane conversation. She didn't know where those came from. Honey, you've got sunburn. Woo, you might want to put some vodka on that. Fortunately, her father didn't seem to notice. Music and loneliness struck a nerve with Francois Paradis. He had immersed himself in his music, tutoring his students and Catherine ever since his wife had gotten sick. It had been 6 years. But sometimes the nights were cold. Please don't tell me he's imagining his lips on his neck as well. Daddy, please. For Francois, the Marquis was speaking to his soul. He was a kindred spirit. He wasn't a pompous showboat like the other royalty Catherine had played for. The Marquis even had a wine collection he wanted to show Francois. Such a down-to-earth, generous young man. Emily, your face is flushed. Are you all right? Sunburn. I'm fine. Just the sun. Probably. This was not true, of course. It's the sun. The afternoon sun had already lost most of its heat. It's shadow sun. Yeah. Thankfully, Catherine provided a distraction. She ran towards the little huddle and flung her arms around her father's torso, chattering happily about gardens and butterflies. A young, ragged girl followed behind her. Emily wasn't sure how old the girl was. Her dirty blonde hair hid the left side of her face. She could just see the faint traces of scars peeking through. A surge of motherly affection caught hold of her heart. Hello there, young lady. The girl looked down at her toes, but she gave a very shy smile. I see you've made a crown of flowers. You look very pretty. Thank you, madame. Catherine gave it to me. Sister, this is Rosa, and she's very nice. She knows the names of all the flowers in Sir Gilly's garden. Catherine, there you go again with your silly names. Sister, help me convince Papa to let Rosa stay with us. Catherine! Papa, please let her stay with us. She doesn't have anywhere to go. Now, Catherine, this is not very nice. Rosa here is a girl. She's not a kitten you cannot just pluck from the street and take home, like you always do with stray animals. Goodness knows we have all the stray cats of Paris living in our house. Yes, I know she's not a kitten. I know she's a girl. But shouldn't we take her home even more so? Francois sighed. Gilly chuckled under his breath, and he was clearly enjoying the exchange. Your daughter has some very unique views, Sir Paradis. Well, Sir Gilly, what do you think? Huh? Gilly's face lost his casual bystander look. You're a Marquis. I'm sure my father would follow your orders, right? Shouldn't we take Rosa home? Gilly's brows furrowed at being put on the spot so suddenly. Oh, shit. He stole a glance at Francois, who was silently pleading him with his eyes not to humour the child. He cleared his throat. Well, I'm sure it's up to your father since he owns the house. He will have to clothe and feed Rosa, you see. Yes, but I've got that all figured out. Ever since Sister moved to work, nobody minds the house anymore. And I have to wash the dishes every time. Ugh. Papa's so busy, and we always have enough food for the two of us. If Rosa stays, then I wouldn't be so lonely on my own. She'll wear Sister's old clothes and will mind the house when both Sister and Father are away. She can wash the dishes sometimes, and I'll wash them sometimes. Gilly and Francois shared a look. And besides, if it were up to me, I'd have people take one girl home in the house and give her food. Girls don't even eat that much. I'm not sure about boys. She thought for a bit. But I'm not sure it's not too much that people can't take them home too. One time, I ate one whole plate of potatoes and my stomach hurt. Potatoes, disgusting. If Rosa were there, I wouldn't have eaten so much. Maybe. Gully couldn't help but laugh, while Fansa rubs his neck in embarrassment. I'm sorry, sir, she's very headstrong. Father, I'm sure taking Rosa in wouldn't be much trouble for us financially, yes? My new work pays better. I'm sure we can adjust. Well, about that. Sorry, I got confused. Well, about that. Perhaps if Rosa works in my household, it wouldn't be much of a burden to your family, sir. Think about it. Sir Gilly is great. Oh, you truly are a kind soul, sire. Not at all. I'm sure I need her help more than she needs mine. Isn't that right, Rosa? In that case, I would love to offer my home to Rosa. Although I am still worried that this is supposed to be more complicated, sire. What about her family, or her friends? Are you violating any laws, perhaps? I'm not even sure. As long as this is consensual, sire, the details can be smoothed out later. The girl was quiet the whole time. She was looking at her toes, or at Catherine. Rosa. Rosa. Do you have any family, relatives or friends you can stay with? Nope. No, sire. My mother, she died a long time ago. But she guides me always. So please don't be compelled to mind me. No, don't go back to the streets, Rosa. It's September. It's going to be really cold soon. It's already, well, it's October technically. It's really cold. Sir Gilly will even give you work. Stay with us. But, Catherine... Francois sighed in surrender. All right, you can stay for the night. Papa! Just for tonight, then we'll see if she wants to stay for longer. Catherine, you cannot hold people in their place just because you want them there, do you understand? If Rosa wants to leave, she may leave. You cannot keep her like an object. Gully cleared his throat. That is sad advice, sir. Yes, Papa, I understand. Oh, Rosa, please make yourself comfortable in our home. Thank you. Papa is the best. Yeah. Catherine turned to Gilly again. So, Gilly, don't you think if everyone with a house takes one person home, nobody would freeze in winter? You should make it into a law. They'll obey you because you're a marquis. And because you're tall. I've done that one. I've done that once to many people where it's just like, I've been halfway through talking and then gone, wow, you're tall. Well, very imposing figure. I'm like, yeah, thanks. So people obey my orders because I am tall. What a compliment. Well, you're taller than my papa at least. He'll never be a marquis. Francois pulled on his daughter's ear with embarrassment. Catherine, mind your manners. I'm so sorry. Gully shook his head, his eyes trailing over the Peregrine family. Emily watched him curiously. That same sadness once again surfaced for the briefest moment. You have a lovely family, sire. I'm quite jealous. You make me want to settle down myself someday. Maybe. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Did he just look at her when he said that? She couldn't be sure. Catherine is perfect the way she is. It's one of the reasons why I'm very invested in her. Ah! Gilly knelt down to his eye to eye with Catherine. He patted her head. You are a very intelligent and kind-hearted girl, Catherine. You are a star. I don't know what that means. Does that mean my star? I don't know. Someday I know you will change the world. At least, I'd like to see you try. Mother. Whoa! Help me. My chest. I can't breathe. No. Catherine. What? What? Okay, so her mother hung herself, and she's found it. Uh, 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 return. It's funny, is it not? They always leave you. Such is the way of the world. The more you love, the more you lose. Oh, it seems, though, like they'll stay forever, but they never do. I'm the only one who stays, my lovely Rose. My love is the only love you need. You were always so weak. Always so loving to people who did not deserve it. I told you to get rid of her, didn't I? I told you to be wary. I knew it from the start, my Rose. Who are we talking about? She was nothing but selfish. She led you astray. I don't want to say any of these. These are horrible. No. You weren't selfish if she led you astray. Catherine was a curse. Wait, was? Okay, Catherine was a curse. She drove you to a love I warned you about. I knew she would just cause you pain. I'm glad you... Oh no, she's dead! What happened, Catherine? What? I was so worried about you, darling. She almost led you astray, away from me. Trust in Mother, darling. I am just glad to have you back to myself. Your silence bothers me, child. She was important to me, Mother. I loved her. Mother only laughed as Rosa screamed out her pain. Rosa felt strong arms shake her awake. Rosa. She opened her eyes and was hit by a strange sadness that crushed her. She was dazed for a moment. Why was she so sad? And then she remembered. Her best friend was gone. She was gone. Rosa. How are you feeling? Gilly sat by her bed, a hand in hers. Rosa didn't realise she'd been holding on to it tightly in her fitful sleep. She broke from his grasp and clutched her knees. Rosa? She remained silent. I came to check on you. You went into shock and lost consciousness. I can only imagine how hard it must have been for you to see her like that. Wait. Was that... When we saw the girl being hung, was that her mother or was that Catherine? His words echoed in her brain, yet she did not register much of their meaning. Rosa still refused to speak, and Gilly fidgeted with his gloves. The wake will take place as soon as possible, Rosa. I just wanted to let you know that she is being taken care of. He's hiding something. There was a slight triumph in Mother's voice. He wants to get rid of her body as soon as possible. Don't you see it, child? Tell me you're not falling for this. Rosa was tired. Mother, always the cynic, would say such things. She hated anyone who came close to Rosa's heart. And Rosa didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to deal with anything right now. All she wanted to do was wallow in her loneliness, to curl up inside the hole Catherine had left behind and sleep. My child, tell me you see it. Remember the feeling Catherine knows the last days. Look at how he is unperturbed by Catherine's death. I don't want to read any of these. You have seen it, haven't you? She was mostly hostile. But sometimes when her sanity returned, she was afraid. Afraid of this man. How well do you even know him, child? I've known him for as long as I knew Catherine, Mother. He is a close friend. I didn't ask how long you've known him, but how well. Beyond the mask that he displays in a public view, do you even know his past? Do you even know any of his ambitions or secrets? He was always a private man, Mother. Think back, child. Isn't it curious how all his past relationships have ended in disaster? Everything he touches crumbles. That is not enough to accuse him of anything. You idiot! He is different. He does not belong. You've felt it too, haven't you? Rosa looked at Gilly with new eyes now. A hint of doubt slithered out from beneath her sadness. Rosa wanted something to blame, a cask for all her regrets. Gilly seemed like the perfect candidate, didn't he? Yes, you're finally seeing it. Open your eyes, child. It made sense. Gilly and Catherine's relationship began to pewter off into coldness right before she died. Her mental instability only served to compound the fracture in the relationship. Perhaps Gilly was tired of her and had her killed off for convenience. Or perhaps Catherine, in her psychotic state, killed herself to spite him. Rosa stared at the man beside her. He is not to be trusted, child. He is a demon. Gilly returned Rosa's angry stare with a resolute look. I know you must hate me, Rosa. I'm aware that I only aggravated Catherine's condition with my presence. I know the feeling when I am not wanted. He stood up, a hard yet kind look on his face. Just remember that I will always be here for you. As much as I was there for Catherine, even though she spat me out. Rosa bit her lip. When Catherine had refused to eat, it had been Gilly who had fed her and attended to her. Despite Catherine hurling abuse at him, he had tried to care for the sick woman himself. Lies! All lies! Keeping up appearances! Then what is that he has done, Mother? Catherine committed suicide. It was not by his hand that she died. Are you just going to leave it at that? Look at his face and tell me you trust him wholeheartedly. Rosa tried to search for the answer in Gilly's eyes, but as always, his face betrayed only a few emotions. I don't know. Mother was screaming now. He killed her! I am sure he did, and you're letting him get away with it. Please, my head hurts. And you say you loved her. You never loved her, you selfish child. I've always known you were the selfish, just like your father. Stop. You throw people away. Didn't you drive me away when I inconvenienced you? Admit it. You were secretly relieved when I died. Stop it! She screamed back at the last voice. Her mouth quivered. Gilly stared at Rosa in shock. The outburst had actually come out loud. It pulled a plug that kept her tears from pouring out. Now her vision clouded and she blinked them away again and again. She was not sobbing. She did not even realize her face was wet. Gilly and Rosa stared at each other, but both kindred in their sorrow. He knelt down by Rosa's bed and wiped her tears with his hand. He did not say anything while doing this, and Rosa stared blankly ahead. It almost stunned her how many tears a person's eyes could carry. I loved her too, Rosa. He said it after a while. I know what you're feeling. She didn't know it was her own, or if Mother's anger was somehow influenced her, but her chest heaved. She balled up her fist so tightly that her fingernails hurt. Shut up. She spat, and the man recoiled at the uncharacteristic bitterness of her words. I'm getting tongue-tied. Catherine was afraid of you in her last days. You did something to her. I know it. She could feel her mother inside her head, building up her anger. He has to be punished. You are to blame. He has to atone. I know you are guilty. He must be punished. Gilly stared at her dumbfounded for a few seconds, but the man didn't try to appease her. He only stepped closer to Rosa and wrapped his arms around the hysterical girl. Let go of me! I hate you! Let me go! But Gilly didn't. If you need something to hate, then I will accept your hate. But you must accept my comfort too. I need you to right now, Rosa. You are the only one who loved her as much as I did. Gilly's words brought back Catherine in Rosa's mind. Almost at once the anger was replaced with a sadness so heavy she couldn't breathe. Why was she so angry again? She was focusing on anger instead of pain. It was easier. The real tears came, all for the loss of the girl they both loved. Tomorrow was not going to come. There was only right now, the loss, and two friends mourning a loved one. Rosa cried until she thought she wouldn't be able to stop, and Gilly quietly held her. Slowly, her weeping began to subside into sobs, and only then did he speak again. Stay in the chateau, Rosa. I know you are thinking of leaving now that Catherine is gone, but I can't let you wander the streets again. I will take care of you. It's what Catherine would have wanted. Like a spell being broken, these words brought back her anger. How? How could you possibly know? Ow! I hate my arm. Break in the dramatic scene! Injury! Ugh. How? How could you possibly know what Catherine wants? She pushed his arms away from her. She's dead. Gilly's mouth pursed and he stepped away. I want you to go. Please leave me. Gilly sighed and closed his eyes. I understand. He turned on his heels and left without another word. Well, we went from happiness to this, so, hours seemed like minutes to her. She would fall asleep and awaken in unfit intervals so often that she had lost the exact time. Awake, she would stare at a part of the wall with no coherent thoughts forming in her mind. One would think morning should be spent in a depressive frenzy. Nope, 5 stages of grief. All the reasons to grieve are yours after all. She could wail now if she wanted. She could pull on her hair or curse the skies. She could reminisce the past, admire the frailty of human lives. Unfortunately, it was something less poetic. Pain was simple. It was clean. It was a well-sharpened knife that sliced through the heart in one stroke. No blood, no mess. Empty. When tears were spent, there was just a hole where your heart had been. The hurt called out to you. It lingered. But since there was nothing there anymore, you couldn't find where the pain ended and you began. Rosa slept all day. The sun had gone down twice before she shifted from her bed. She stood up slowly, deliberately, with a purpose. My child, you know I hurt when you're hurt. Already a surge of power flowed within her, fueled by her grief. The power filled her up, and there was so much emptiness inside that the energy seemed to saturate her whole body. Purpose was always a balm for grief. Mother, tell me what to do. I'd rather not, because your mother's a bit of a bitch. Just gonna be perfectly honest in saying that, Rosa. That's the same thing. Ah, justice. Start with his guilt, child, then deliver punishment fitting for one so vile. He cannot get away with this. Oh, that's pretty. Achievement unlocked, justice visor. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, Rosa didn't speak, but she started to form the words in her mind, feeling them in her bones, giving life to every thought. She took a small knife and carved a symbol on her floor. It didn't need much, a guilt spell. It didn't aim to punish, it only aimed to inform. She needed to know how much guilt the man carried and the source of such guilt. If the guilt was concrete and came from a direct action, then she would know Gilly did something to Catherine. It had been a while since she had used magic. It used to be the only way she could protect herself from the world. Mother had taught her, and now Mother guided her as she cast the spell. She needed a possession of the man. Rosa opted for his voice, still fresh from memory. She focused on the last conversation they shared. If you needed something to hate, if you needed something to hate, I will take care of you. I need you. His words made Rosa feel distress and confusion. Always it was this way with him. The feeling wasn't foreign, it had been there for years. I will always be here for you. Ugh. Rosa felt a violent force upturn her stomach. It was that horrid lurch just before vomiting. You failed. The spell collapsed in her brain. Focus, idiot child, or you'll lose your chance. Rosa tried again. This time she focused on Gilly's eyes. Cold, like flints of steel. Dark and fathomless. No grief, except, perhaps, for the situation. No Catherine. No pain of loss. This didn't matter to her. Their relationship was dying anyway. Where was his guilt? Rosa dug deeper. She increased the chanting on her lips. No torment. No uncertainty. No guilt. Did the spell fail again? She searched once more and found nothing. There was no guilt in Gilly's eyes. She could stop the spell now, knowing that he was innocent. If the spell had worked, then Gilly would be blameless, but this absence was most distressing. Rosa desperately pushed her mind further, almost wishing that there were traces hidden behind her reach. Guilt should be present in any loss, no matter how little. Don't we blame ourselves for our own loss? Don't we hate ourselves and punish ourselves, even if it wasn't our fault? It didn't have to be real, but we need guilt to feel pain. But Gilly didn't have a slither of guilt. The vicious pain took hold of her again, squeezing her stomach with murderous intent. The pain was so great, Rosa wasn't sure if the spell had failed or succeeded. Something is wrong. Before Rosa could agree with Mother, she felt a sharp pain in her throat. Rosa clutched her neck, scraping and scratching. A sharp, jagged lump was blocking her breathing. She could feel its edges crawl up her windpipe, tearing the soft walls that it moved about. The pain did not stop. Rosa fell to her knees and gagged. She thrashed about like a woman being strangled. Mother remained calm, unaffected by Rosa's distress. Rosa was about to expel whatever it was. Tears ran down her face. The horrible acidic taste coated her tongue. Finally, she opened her mouth and forced the vile thing out. Ugh! She kept her eyes shut, afraid to look at whatever had come out of her. Oh, God! But the sound! Oh, man! Ugh! But the choking feeling gripped her and she puked again. Oh, it's so wet! Oh, she spat out after she vomited. Her spit felt heavy and thick in her mouth. It gathered around her knees in a growing pool. Rosa panted. Every breath was laced with pain, but the gruesome effect had finally stopped. She wiped the sweat on her forehead. Something on the floor reflected light. She struggled to comprehend what was in front of her. She reached out with her hand and the prick of something sharp made her recoil. She tried again, this time seeing more clearly. Rosa picked them up with shaking hands. No, that's like a horror. That's like a really bad nightmare. Oh god, it's one of those things that you always worry about when, like, oh, what if you accidentally swallow needles or something, or oh no, I've had that nightmare many times. Needles. Oh, in her palms were a handful of long metal needles. Rosa examined them with a horrified kind of curiosity. She stuck one in her thumb and it drew blood. They were real. They had materialized in her throat while casting the spell on Gilly. Rosa wiped her mouth. There was something wrong with him. Something potent and dark. Or could it be that she had merely botched the spell horribly? She had pushed her limits this time. She had gone too far. But still a tugging concern was forming. It was as real as the metal needles in her hand. Rosa tried to stand up on her feet, but she was exhausted. I'm exhausted! Ugh! Her knees failed her and she crumpled on the floor like a rag. I knew it! I knew... You knew what? We must get to the bottom of this. Are you quite all right, my darling? Oh, now you see it too. There is a sinister force at work. Get up. We have a lot of work to do. We must find out what he is and stop him. Rosa stared at the needles in her hand. Who are you really, Gilly? I don't... Okay, so the girl we saw hanging at the beginning was Catherine, older. Some time has passed because her hair has grown. Oh, that was the end of chapter 2. That was... Wow. Yes, that was short. And, okay, so... I also realised something. When Emily was having, like, wicked and dark thoughts about Gilly, even though she found him pretty boring, she saw a flash of green skin, or that's what I think she saw. Maybe he's magical himself? Maybe... I don't know. It's a mystery, and we're going to unravel it, but I think there might be something magical about Gilly, or... in Rosa's head she's seeing these things and it's affecting her memory and affecting her relationship with everyone. So we're going to pick this up in the next part. I need a break because that went from, oh, this is so nice, to no, bloodshed, vomiting needles. Ugh. Anyway guys, I'll see you all in the next part. Bye bye.